Well, last week I started by telling you how I proposed to my wife, Catherine. So I basically shared with you how our season of dating came to an end. I figured tonight I'd kind of rewind and tell you how our season of dating actually began. And so for our first date, I took Catherine to dinner, and then we went to see a very mediocre movie that was called Flight Plan, which was about this woman who basically lost her daughter on an airplane flight. I don't even know how that happens, but she just lost her kid on the plane. And then for our second date, I took Catherine to dinner, and we went ice skating at the Galleria in Dallas. Now, we went ice skating on a Tuesday night. Apparently, Tuesday night isn't the night when everyone goes ice skating. So it basically looked like I rented out the entire skating rink, and just the two of us started taking laps. Lucky for me, I'm no stranger to ice skating, and so I actually have a signature move. Here's what it looks like. I kid you not, this is what I did to impress Catherine. I put my legs like this, and I just act real relaxed, and I just glided by her. I think in Catherine's words were, "You're too good at ice skating." That's not a compliment. That was her saying, "You're in this too deep, and you need to get out." All right. For our third date, I took Catherine to the State Fair of Texas, and we rode the Texas Sky Coaster. I've told you this before, but the two of us got strapped in together, and we got raised about 160 feet in the air. As we were being raised up, I just involuntarily started singing the song "Beautiful Day" by U2. So as we're going up, I'm just like, "It's a beautiful day! Skies roll, it feels like a beautiful..." And then the cord gets ripped, and we begin to swing, and I begin to Christian cuss. I'm like, "Oh, my gentle Judas," because, Christian cussing's really a cool thing when you're trying to impress a girl. That was date 3. Date 4, we went to dinner, and we went to a haunted house because it was October, and it was around Halloween time. Date 5, I took her to a Dallas Mavericks basketball game. And then for date 6, I took her to a U2 concert. Some of y'all are like, "You who?" U2. All right, go listen to them, people. They'll change your life. But right in the middle of U2's song that's called "Sunday, Bloody Sunday," Catherine and I had a special moment where we kind of had a DTR, where I kind of told her how I felt about her and what was happening, which is interesting because "Sunday, Bloody Sunday" is a song about a massacre, and that is when I felt prompted, I need to do something now. I don't know what that even means. And then from that day on, after date 6, we were on this 8.5-month intentional course towards engagement and then marriage. That's how things began for Catherine and myself. And I tell you that because when I think back upon my time dating Catherine, I think back and I realize we have so many great memories together from our season of dating. And when I look back upon that 8 to 9 month stretch of dating before we got engaged, I look back and the thought that I have for the majority of the time is, I'm glad we dated that way. I love being able to look back and say, I'm glad that we decided to date like that, because when Catherine and I, when we stepped into dating, we decided that we were going to be very intentional with each other, that we didn't want to just jack around, we didn't sign up to just kind of have fun and just see what happens. Neither of us was in this thing to just buy time with the other person. It's okay, you're here, I'm here, let's just give it a go, and it doesn't matter what happens, let's just keep it casual and we'll figure it out. Neither of us was looking to the other to fill a void in our lives. No, each of us was on this intentional course to figure out if this was the person that we were going to choose to love for the rest of our lives. And so I look back on our time dating, and I love being able to just think, I'm glad that we dated like that. But, I think about some of the relationships that I was in prior to dating and marrying Catherine. I can't say the same thing. For different relationships that I was in, I don't look back and think, I'm glad I dated that way. I look back and I think, what was I thinking? Not because of who, but because of how. I don't look back and think, what was I thinking because of who I was dating, because I dated some truly great people. But I look back at how we dated and I'm just like, oh, why? Like, why that? And so I think back of some of those relationships, and the reality is the overflow of some of those relationships in my own life have been regret and shame. And I think about people in this room, and I've talked with enough of you, I've counseled with enough of you to know that you are acquainted with some of the same regret and shame in your own life. And so that is why we're doing the series that we are doing. Is because we want to be people who maximize our joy and minimize unnecessary pain when it comes from dating relationships. As we established last week, romantic love is a very powerful force. Like, it can make your semester or ruin it. It can warm your heart or break it. It can leave you feeling full of joy, and it can leave you feeling empty, bitter, and broken. And so last week, we opened up this book in the Bible that's called the Song of Solomon. And if you're not familiar with it, if you weren't here last week we talked about who to date. Tonight we're talking about how to date. And I'm so thankful for the Song of Solomon, because the Song of Solomon is a book in the Bible that God devoted completely to the topic of finding love, making love, and maintaining love. It is God's vision for how to experience maximum joy and minimal unnecessary pain when it comes to romantic relationships. So if you have a Bible, turn with me tonight to Song of Solomon chapter 1. Song of Solomon chapter 1. You know, as I've thought back upon my time dating Catherine, and then I think about my previous relationships to Catherine, you know what the key difference is between my relationship with Catherine and the previous relationships that I was in? The key difference is that when I began dating Catherine, I actually had a vision for how to date. And so my hope is that tonight would be the same thing for you. My hope is that tonight would in some way give you a vision for the best path forward when it comes to romantic love. If you weren't here with us last week, then let me just fill you in on how the Song of Solomon goes. It's God's ideal for romantic love. And it's just this journey between this man and this woman. And they just talk back and forth to each other. Last week, we only heard from the woman. And the woman speaks 53% of the time in the book. The guy only speaks 34% of the time, and the girl's friends speak the rest of the time. Okay, it works. That's how things operate. But today, we're going to start by hearing from the guy. And I love what he says. Listen to what he says in verse 9. He says, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. How great is that? Like, guys, I dare you to find a girl and be like, baby, you remind me of a horse. Hey, I'm just trying to be biblical. Baby, that's straight from the Word of God. You take it in love. You're like a horse, like a big, thick stallion. No, don't say that. But I love what he says. He says, you are like a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. See, here's what you need to realize. Stallions pulled Pharaoh's chariots, not mares. And there's this story that's recorded in ancient Egyptian literature. It's this story about an enemy of Egypt that released a mare into the battlefield to throw Pharaoh's stallions into chaos. So listen to what this guy is saying. He's saying, baby, you throw my life into this beautiful chaos. Like, I kind of can't think clearly. Like, I can't exactly focus on my work. All the other stallions are yelling at me, hey, stallions before mares, stallions before mares. But I'm like, baby, I don't care. Forget the stallions. I'm with the mare. And I love it. Because he's just saying, you throw my life into this beautiful chaos. But I want you to see the wording that he uses, because he says this, I compare you, my love. Now, what you need to know, that phrase right there, my love, in the Hebrew, it carries the meaning of friend or companion. And so here's this guy whose life is thrown into this beautiful chaos, not primarily because he thinks this girl is hot, even though he does. We'll see that in just a second. But his life gets thrown into this beautiful chaos because of the deep companionship that this girl offers him. Now, I need you to see how this is directing us. And I think it's just probably a very appropriate time for us to just ask and answer the question, like, what's the point of dating in the first place? Like, what's the point of dating? Many of you in here believe that the point of dating is simply to date. Like, you date to date. It's just like a part of your college experience. You date to date. It's something that you do that's fun and you can get stuff out of it and it's an enjoyable experience. So you date to date. My fear is if you take that mentality with dating, your relationship with other people might feel a little like your relationship with one of these bikes that you find on campus. And that probably sounds really weird to say, but I want you to just think about these bikes that are on campus. It's just a very interesting concept, but many of you guys just say, you know what, you just date to date. Like, keep it casual, I'm not looking for anything serious. That's kind of how your relationships are with these bikes. Like, you enter in, it's like, okay, you're gonna get me somewhere, we're gonna have an experience together, but there's gonna come a point where I'm done with you, and that's fine. Thanks for what you gave me when I wanted it. And so it's kind of, here's what you need to understand. When people enter into relationship with these bikes, when's the last time you were walking around campus and you saw someone like, my precious, like who walks up to this bike and is like, I'm gonna leave you better than when I found you? Like, nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. You don't see anyone out there like polishing her down and just getting her all cleaned up. No, your relationship with these bikes is one of convenience. It's I'm gonna use you till I get what I need out of you, and when I get that, then I'm gonna be done. And my fear is when we take this mentality of, you know what, you date to date. Let's just keep it casual. I'm not looking for anything serious. The problem with that mentality is everyone comes to a casual encounter with the thought of nobody's sitting there thinking, I'm going to leave you better than when I found you. Everyone comes to those types of relationships saying, what can I get out of this? And when everyone's saying, what can I get out of this, nobody's thinking about your interests. And it's nice when you get what you want, but what about when someone's using you? And so I just think about these bikes, and if you were to go and look at them, you see that they're all scratched up, they're all nicked up, like there's paint that's coming off. Like if you were to look into this basket, there's stuff that's missing from it. And my fear is that for some of you, you just say, you know, I'm going to date today, I'm going to keep it casual, I'm just going to kind of hop from one person to the next, kind of like one bike to the next. The problem is, I promise you, you won't come out on the other side unscathed. Like, you're going to pick up bumps and bruises and scratches along the way, because when feelings are involved, like, you're more than just your body. You're more than just a physical person. You have a mind, you have a soul, you have a heart. And it's impossible to separate those things out. God has made you a whole being. And you might say, well, you know what, it's worth the risk. It's worth the risk to have the fun. Hey, let me just say, dating is absolutely worth the risk. Dating will always require risk. Just make sure it's a calculated risk. Let me just tell you what I think the point of dating is. I believe that the point of dating is simply for you to evaluate if this is a person that you could see yourself choosing to love for the rest of your life. I think that the best reason to date is to move towards marriage. That doesn't mean that you go out on the first date and then you're like, okay, are we getting married or not? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that you understand that there is a risk involved. And every other relationship that you're in besides one is going to end up in a breakup. And with each breakup, there is feelings involved. There is hurt feelings. There is a part of your heart that gets that will get played with. And so it's just important to realize, you know what, be wise. I believe that the point of dating is just to figure out, hey, is this a guy or is this a girl that I could see myself choosing to love for the rest of my life? So if that's the case, let's just take what this guy said to this girl to heart. He looks at her and he calls her my love, which it means companionship or friend. Here's what you have to realize. Whoever you date and then marry, that's the person that you're going to spend the majority of your time with for the next 50 to 60 years. That's the person that you're going to eat most of your meals with. That's the person that you're going to potentially have kids with. That's the person that you're going to vacation with and spend all of your holidays with. That's the person that you're going to go through trials with. That's the person that's going to be there to comfort you when your heart is hurting. So there better be some compatibility that leads to companionship. And so as you're evaluating the people that you're dating, let me just encourage you to make sure that there's a compatibility in a few key areas. Number one, ambitions or deep desires. Like what I'm just saying is you need to figure out which direction you guys are heading in when it comes to passions and ambitions. If you're wanting to move to Africa to be a missionary and he wants to move to Houston to be in corporate America, you can't be in two places at once. If he's sitting there saying, you know what, I want to have kids, and you're sitting there saying, I don't know about that, that's something that probably needs to be addressed. Y'all might not be on the same page. It's good to just evaluate, like, do our ambitions line up? Do our passions, would our passions take us in the same direction, into the same places? Another thing to evaluate in terms of compatibility is humor. Like I said it last week, but I assure you, God will use humor to save your marriage. Absolutely. Like if you find someone who loves Jesus and you can laugh with them, you might have found something really, really good. Like one of my favorite parts of my marriage to Kat is the fact that we love laughing together. Like my favorite moments in our marriage is when we find ourselves just laying in bed at night trying to outwit each other. Like we're just going back and forth trying to outwit the other person. Catherine's a lot funnier than I am. I feel like I bring something to the table, and then she always just owns me, and it drives me crazy. But my favorite moments is when we find ourselves like gasping for air, belly laughing in bed at the fact that we're just going back and forth together. I love that. I can't imagine our marriage without that. Find someone that you can laugh with. Is that compatibility there? But then the most important aspect where there has to be compatibility, it's not just a part of your life, it is your life. There has to be a spiritual compatibility. And we talked about this last week. Are you guys running at the same pace in the same direction? Have both of you surrendered your life to Jesus Christ? Do each of y'all come before the Lord in this type of posture of, Jesus, you have your way with my life? My answer is yes to you, Jesus. You're the leader, you're king, and I will follow where you're leading because your way is the best way. Are you guys both submitting your lives to the Word of God? Are you both seeking the Lord in prayer? Are you spiritually compatible? Like I can't imagine Catherine and I not being on the same page spiritually. Like I can't imagine taking my kids to church by myself. I can't imagine praying for Kat but not with Kat. I can't imagine sitting and talking to my kids about Jesus, but Catherine being in the other room wanting to have nothing to do with it. I can't imagine a life where Catherine and I are not synced up and we can't talk about what God is doing in our lives. The beautiful thing about Catherine is that she is the greatest voice of truth that I have in my life. Like God speaks most clearly to me through Catherine. And when God speaks through Catherine to me, I look at her and I'm like, baby, you're like a horse. And you throw my life into this beautiful chaos. Now, I just want to be clear. Some of you guys are listening to this list of compatibility issues, and you're like, humor, check. You should hear the jokes we tell. You should hear the way that we just go back and forth with each other. And you hear me talk about ambitions, and you're like, check. Man, we both want to go to this place and do this thing. And then you hear me say spiritual compatibility, and you're like, she's getting there. Like, he's getting there. Hey, let me just say, if you've got the first two but not the last one, you don't have anything. And ultimately, the first two get drowned away if you don't have the third one. You cannot date and marry someone for who you hope they will become. Don't play God in their lives. You might be sitting there saying, but God's using me. You know what? Let's just be clear. Only God can change a person's heart. You can't. So don't try and play God in their lives. And if you're here tonight and you're hearing me say this and you're not a believer, hey, let me just be clear. This is for you too. For a Christian and someone who's not a Christian to get married, you just need to understand marriage doesn't pacify your differences. It amplifies your differences. What's most important to you isn't most important to her. What's most important to her is not most important to you. I promise you. Do not marry each other for who you hope they will become. If you're an unbeliever sitting there saying, maybe she'll just chill out about this Jesus stuff, and you're a believer saying, maybe he'll just get more into this Jesus stuff, do not pass go. Do not sit there and downplay things or minimize things thinking that things will just get better. Find someone that you're compatible with, that there's a connection and it's more than just a physical one. Look back at the text, look at what it says, verse 10. You know what's interesting? Up to this point, we haven't heard them talk about physical attraction at all. But verse 10, what does he say? He says, your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. Guys, he's a cheek and neck guy. Like, when's the last time you talked to your girl about how much you love her neck? He's a cheek and neck guy. And then in verses 15 and 16, if you skip down, you see the girl and guy just going back and forth about how into each other they are. He says, behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves. Like, just pack that one away, guys, for the right moment. Then she says, behold, you are beautiful, my beloved. Truly delightful. Ladies, just shock your guy. Be like, you're delightful. Like, I've never been told I'm delightful. But Kat, now you know. Okay. But you see, there's this, there is a physical attraction between them. And I love that the text brings that out. Because what I need you to understand is physical attraction is important. It's just not preeminent. Like, it's important, but it's not preeminent. Preeminent meaning taking first place. Like the most important thing. It's important, but it's not of utmost importance. And so hear me say there needs to be a physical attraction between you and whoever you are going to marry. And so I just want to speak very specifically to some guys in the room right now. Some of you guys, without realizing it, you're leading girls on right now. And the reason that you're leading girls on is that there's a relational connection, but it's lacking physical attraction. And some of you girls hear that and something inside of you aches. But guys, you don't even realize that it's happening. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I think back at my time at A&M, and I was one of the good Christian guys, yet there were different moments in my life where I had to go back and apologize to specific girls for leading them on because there was this relational connection, and it was fun, and we could laugh together, and we could have great conversation, but there was something that was lacking. There was something that was missing. What I've come to realize is to connect with someone relationally when there isn't the physical traction, it's comfortable, but it's careless. Like, it's comfortable, it feels good. Guys, the thing that feels best about it is that you know someone likes you. And it makes you feel important and it makes you feel valuable, but it's careless because you're only thinking about what feels good to you. And so just because you're not physically attracted to the girl doesn't mean that some other guy won't be. And so you just need to step away and step aside so that this girl can first and foremost be devoted to the Lord. But in God's timing, the person who will come into her life and cherish her like she deserves to be cherished can step in and be the man that she deserves for him to be. Physical attraction is important, but let's just be clear. While it's important, it's not of utmost importance. And so, hey, just real talk, real quick. Some of you guys are dating that guy or that girl because she's hot. And that's it. You like how they look and they like how they make you look. Like you like walking into places, you like showing up to day parties, you like showing up to Northgate with him with you. And so let's just be honest. While the physical is there, there's not much else that's there. And if you want to know if I'm talking about you, just answer this question. What do you really like about him? Like, go ask that to your roommate that you think is in that relationship just because of how he looks. Just ask her, say, tell me what you really like about him. And I'm telling you, if she can't rattle off 5 things quickly, if she's like, well, so he's hot, so that's just stating the obvious. Like, we do stuff together. It's like, no, that's just a fact that you just stated. That's not something that you like. That's just a red flag. It's just a red flag. Physical attraction is important. It is not preeminent. Okay, look back at the text, verse 11. I love this because now what we see is we see the girl's friends chime in, because you have to remember, wherever there's a guy and a girl dating, there's always a group of friends talking about, group of the girl's friends talking about the guy and the girl. So here's what the girls say. They say, we will make for you ornaments of gold studded with silver. I love this because what are they saying? They're saying, they're coming around their girlfriend and they're saying, hey, we want to make you more beautiful for him. Like however we can help, we want to make you more beautiful for him. And I love that because ladies, y'all are so good at helping each other become more beautiful. And so guys, I just want to take a moment and fill you in on how things operate with girls. Like this is just what you need to know. This is free of charge. I'm just shooting you straight. So, guys, when you call a girl up and you ask her out on a date, by the way, I encourage you to just call. Like you're trying to begin a relationship, like have direct communication, like you're trying to move closer together. Don't take the roundabout way of like, I'm going to go through DM and no, just call her up, like talk to her. Use your words. But if you call her up and you ask her out, let me tell you what happens when you hang up. She hangs up the phone, and it doesn't matter where she is in the world. Here's what she does. She goes, ladies, assemble! And all of her closest friends magically appear in 30 seconds or less. Like they could have been on different continents, and they just appear. And she tells you this happens. She tells her friends, okay, he just asked me out. And girls, they make an audible noise just showing affirmation in that they approve. And then the group of friends asks the question. There's only one question to ask. What's the question? What are you going to wear? And to the question, she gives the response. What's the response? I don't really have anything. And that's all the friends needed to hear. And they're like, we got this. Guys, you need to know, when she opens that door, she doesn't own anything that she's wearing. She's wearing someone's earrings, someone's top, someone's shoes. True story. Let's pray and get out of here. Ladies, is that not true? Yes, it is true. And I love that. Like, ladies, I love that about you. I love that you naturally snap into this mode where it's like, we want to help you. Like, we want to help you be as beautiful as you can be. And I love that about you. But ladies, let me just tell you what's even more incredible. What's even more incredible is when there's a group of girls that are so committed to not just making their friend more physically beautiful, but they're looking to make their friend more emotionally and spiritually beautiful. And I just want you to know, I'm not just talking to the girls right now, I'm talking to the guys. Like, this is what we all need, and this is what we all deserve. Like, if you consider yourself a follower of Jesus Christ, let's just be clear, it is your God-given responsibility to help your friends become the men or the women that God has called them to be. I just want you to think about this. Your roommate is going to become someone's lifelong roommate. Is there any way you can help right now? Is there any way that you can help them become the best lifelong roommate possible? Like, what would it look like for you to go to your friend and be like, hey, bro, how are you doing with consistency with the Lord? If you're struggling, like, let's just go at it together. Let's run together. Let's encourage each other. And for girls, for you guys to, I don't know what y'all call each other. What's the girl equivalent of bro? Is it like chica or sister? Like, I don't know what you say. Sis. Hey, sis. That's so weird. Okay, anyway, it just doesn't work as well as bro. But anyway, sis. Like, what would it look like for you to just go to your sister and just be like, look, hey, I just want to shoot you straight. There's some times where you and I get in a fight, and then when we're in a fight, you just cut me out for a day or two. And we don't talk about it. But I want us to move back together. Like, I want us to figure it out. I want us to talk it out. But I feel like you just shut down and you shut out. I just want more for you. I want more for us. Or for you guys to go to each other and just say, look, there's times where I don't know if you're lying or exaggerating or telling a half-truth. Hey, you don't need to exaggerate about who you are, what you have, or where you've been. Like, I love you for you. Be a man of a character and integrity. Hey, bro, there's times where you eat my food and use my stuff, and you don't tell me that you eat my food or use my stuff, and I don't care if you eat my food and use my stuff, but it makes me feel unvalued. It makes me feel like you're taking advantage of me. It would just be nice for you to say thank you every once in a while. Let me just tell you this. Every single person in here needs a few men or a few women who have unrestricted access to your life. Like, you need a few guys in your life who can say anything to you without you getting defensive. Like, you need a few girls in your life who you know love you enough that when they tell you something, even if it hurts, you know that it's said out of love. And let me just tell you what you want on your wedding day. Like, on my wedding day, I had 13 groomsmen next to me. That's because Catherine had 13 girls. Like, I didn't know half of my guys' last names. I was like, you just stand there, all right? Can you do that for an hour? I'm just joking. But anyway, like, the vision that you want is, man, when you stand there on your wedding day, you want to be able to look down that line of these guys who are committed to helping you become the groom that you've always wanted to be. Like, you want to be able to look, and this is what I could do. I could look down and I could be like, God used these two guys to help me passionately pursue Jesus Christ. God used these two guys to lift me up from rock bottom and help me begin to run back towards character and integrity. God used these guys to help me deal with the anger, bitterness, and resentment issues that I was dealing with. Like, that's what you want. You want to be able to look down your line and say, these are the people that God has used to help shape me into who God has called me to be. Look back at the text, verse 12. It says this, while the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-gedi. What you need to know is women would wear this little pouch of perfume at night when they slept, and the next day they would smell sweetly of perfume for the whole next day. What this girl is saying is, she's saying, my man is like that sachet of myrrh. Like, he makes me smell good. She says that he is to me a cluster of henna blossoms. Henna blossoms were ornaments that women would wear to make them more beautiful. She's saying that his presence in my life makes me look and smell much better. Like, his presence to me is a blessing. And so I just want to speak specifically to the guys right now. And the reason I'm speaking specifically to the guys is because I am a guy. And I've sat where you've sat. And I've dealt with my own issues of character and integrity. There's times where I've been a man of compromise instead of conviction. And so let me just say this, guys, what we're seeing right here in the Song of Solomon is that how you live will impact whoever's lives you date. Like, how you smell will impact how they smell. Last week we asked the question, like, how do you smell? How's your character and reputation smell? Do you smell of conviction or compromise? What we're hearing tonight is you don't just have to worry about how you smell, you have to worry about how a girl will smell from dating you. So it's just a good question to ask if you're in a relationship right now, like, how does your girl smell from being in a relationship with you? Guys, I just want you to think, if you convince your girl that it's okay for you guys to spend the night together as long as nothing is happening, how is she going to smell to your neighbors or hers when they see you walking out of your apartment in the morning? Or like, if you guys spend all of your time in your room or in her room with the door closed, how is she going to smell to your roommates or her roommates? She's going to smell of compromise. Y'all might be memorizing the Bible together, but no one knows that. she's going to smell of compromise. Like if you let petty, stupid arguments just continually get airtime in your relationship, and your relationship on a weekly basis is just a roundabout of drama, how's she going to smell? She's going to reek of drama. Like if you are emotionally flaky, like one day you're all about her and the next day you ghost her, like one day you want to make out with her, the next day you want to keep your options open, one day you definitely want to be dating her, the next day you're not sure if you want to be dating her, how's she going to smell? She's going to smell of insecurity. But guys, when you begin to care and you become a man of conviction instead of compromise, you know what happens? Your life becomes a blessing to many, specifically her. Like when you set good physical boundaries, when you care about her character and reputation, you know what she's going to smell of? She's going to smell of purity and conviction. When you consistently affirm your feelings for her and you tell her where you're at in the relationship and how things are going, she's going to smell of security. When you refuse pointless drama in your relationship, she's going to smell of peace. So guys, you just need to evaluate. Like if you were to start dating a girl right now, would you be okay with her smelling like you smell right now? If not, it's time to freshen up. It's time to freshen up. And girls, let me just say, this applies to you too. Like it's good for you to ask the question, how will a guy smell from dating me? Like, let me just turn it back around on you. That's an important question for you to ask as well. And if you're in a dating relationship right now, just to answer this question, do you like how you smell right now? Another way of asking it is this: do you like who you're becoming from being in that relationship? If the answer is no, it's probably time to get out. Passage goes on, watch this. Verse 17, it says this: our couch is green, the beams of our house are cedar, our rafters are pine. Do you see what she's saying? She's saying we're living our relationship out in the daylight. She says our couch is green. She's talking about the grass. The beams of our house are cedar. She's talking about the trees that are overhanging. And I love this because it just brings up a very practical point. One of the best things you can do for your relationship is let your relationship see as much daylight as possible. Let your relationship see as much daylight as possible. I'm not just talking about sunlight. I'm talking about living your relationship in public. You guys can sit on the couch and make out for the rest of your lives. But live your relationship out in public, because you know what that will do? That will give you the opportunity to actually know each other. Like today, I was just looking at this book that Catherine gave me. This is a book of our 1-year dating anniversary, and it was so fun to just look through and see all of the things that we did, because we lived so much of our relationship in public. There's a YouTube concert ticket stub. There's the Chicken Little movie ticket stub. That's where I held her hand for the first time, which is really embarrassing that I thought all girls like animated movies, and I thought that it was always a win to go to animated movies. Anyway, there's the time that we went to the Gaylord Texan, to the ICE exhibit. There's a time that I went to visit her family at Christmas. There's a time we went to the Jason Mraz concert and the Chronicles of Narnia movie. There's the time that I sent her flowers. There's the time we went to the horse races, the time that we went to the Rough Riders baseball game. It's just page after page of us living our relationship out in public. And the reason I'm so thankful that we did that for so much of the time is that it gave me the opportunity to know who Catherine truly was. It forced us to communicate our interests, our affections, our deep desires. And it affirmed for me, this is someone that I want to be with. But if you were to skip down to verse 7 and you were to see what the girl says, what does she say? She says, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. She's talking about sexual intimacy. She's saying there's a time for it. Be careful with it. Like if you let it into your relationship too soon, do you know what it will do? It's like spraying a fire with lighter fluid. It causes the fire of your relationship to flare up, and it makes you think that the fire of your relationship is bigger and warmer than it really is. See, physical intimacy too soon in a relationship, it actually blocks you from knowing the person for who they truly are. And so while everything in you thinks that the best way to communicate your affections for the other person is just by putting your hands all over them, let me just tell you, use your words instead of your hands at this point. Because you'll know the person for who they truly are. And now we get to chapter 2, and just stick with me real quick. Listen to what she says, verse 1. She says, I'm a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valley. She's comparing herself to a very common flower on the countryside. She's basically saying, I'm a lily among lilies. Like, I'm no different than the other girls. Why would the king Solomon look at me and think that I'm special? But then Solomon chimes in and says, this, as a lily among brambles, so is my love among the young women. He's saying, you're not a lily among lilies. You're a lily among thorns. There's only one for me, and you are it. And I love that because, guys, what you need to understand is so often the way that a girl will operate is she will need to know how you truly feel about her early and often. She will. Not all girls are like this, but a deep question inside of so many girls is, am I truly loved? Am I truly valuable? Am I cherished? And guys, if you don't communicate clearly and you leave a girl to wonder how you truly feel about her, when you leave her to wonder, she will wander into insecurity. And so my encouragement to you is to communicate with your words often, and your goal is to cancel out any insecurity that she might feel. And what I love is that the girl returns the favor in just the next verse. She says, as an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow and ate his fruit was sweet, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. She's saying, you know what? You're unique as well. There's no one else that I want to be with like you. And so you see them just affirming one another. You see them fighting for security in the relationship. Guys, girls need that, but girls, you need to know guys need that affirmation as well. So let me just get really clear with you very quickly. I just want to be very practical on what things can look like as you date. I'm not giving you a script. This isn't like a ritual or a rhythm that you have to stick to. I'm just trying to give you a vision. Like, guys, call a girl up and ask her out. And some of you girls are like, but can't I ask him out? Let me just say this, just real quick, because that's a question I even got today, a few hours ago. Can a girl ask a guy out? Is it sinful for a girl to ask a guy out? I can't find anywhere in the Bible that would say that it's a sin for a girl to ask a guy out. But let me just say this, ladies, what you need to understand is one of God's biggest struggles is passivity. Goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden where Adam just sat there while Eve took the fruit. We lean towards passivity. You want to be with someone who takes initiative. Like, you don't want to be with someone who's going to make you be the one to ask him out, and then he's going to make you be the one to clarify how y'all feel about each other, and then he's going to make you be the one to take the relationship further, and then he's going to make you be the one to propose to him. Like, you want someone who takes initiative. One of the best ways to know if a guy takes initiative or not is to let him ask you out. So guys, ask a girl out. And guys, let me just be clear. There's a big difference between being intentional and being intense. Do you hear what I'm saying? There's a huge difference between being intentional and being intense. Ask a girl out, take her out. If you enjoy the date, like, tell her that. Like, when you drop her off, just say, I had a really good time. I'd love to take you out again sometime. And ladies, if you want to go out again, tell them, yeah, that sounds good. Like Catherine, the only thing she would give me is she'd just say the word sure. And it drove me crazy, but she gave me enough to know that we could have another date. Here's what you need to understand. All you need to know on the first date is if you want to have a second date. Like, you don't need to figure out, ladies, if this is the one. Can you just take that pressure off of him? Like, just figure out if you want to say yes again. And guys, I would encourage you to, if she wants to go out with you again, like, call her in the next 48 hours. It doesn't have to be 48 hours exact. I'm just saying, if you wait a week or 2 weeks, like, what does that say to her? Like, she's just sitting around like, is he interested? Is he not? Are we going to go out again? Just communicate early. Communicate often. Just be clear. And when you guys go out enough that you know, like, this is a relationship you really want to be in, just have that moment where you guys solidify the relationship. And there's no magic words. Like, there's no words that I can tell you that don't sound awkward. And I kind of like that. Like, to just have a DTR moment where it kind of sounds a little cheesy, but it's just clear to be like, hey, I love dating you. Like, and you're the only one I want to date. Like, will you be my girlfriend? Like, it sounds weird even coming out of my mouth right now. But like, just be clear. And throughout the relationship, guys, you have to find ways to write notes and to just share your feelings with the girl. And then guys or girls, if you get to a point where you know that's not the relationship for you, tell the other person. Like, don't just start avoiding them. Don't stop responding to them. Don't stop texting them just hoping that you'll make them mad enough that they break up with you. No, if you're a man or woman enough to get into the relationship, be man or woman enough to get out of the relationship. And when you break up, let it be a clean break. Like, let that person go and heal. Like, don't text them and be like, hey, I was just thinking about you, just wondering how you're doing. Don't text them and be like, I saw this, it made me think of you, hope all is well. And please, in a moment of nostalgia, don't call them up and go hook up with them. Because when you do that, do you realize that you're communicating two contradicting things? You're saying, I like you, but I don't like you. You're saying, I don't want to date you, but I want to act like I'm dating you. No. We want to be people who promote security in each other. We want to fight for each other's well-being, for each other's peace in dating relationships. You see what the girl says right there toward the end, verse 5, she says, sustain me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I'm sick with love. His left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. This is a girl who's just basically saying, I want that. Like, that's what she's saying. And guys, that's what happens. That's what happens when you provide companionship for a girl. That's what happens when she smells better from being around you. That's what happens when you fight for her security. That's what happens when she knows that you delight in being with her. Joy. I'll close by saying this. You know, I looked at this book today between Catherine and myself, and I just flipped through the pages and all that we got to experience. And man, I had everything. Everything that I could want, I found it in Catherine. And yet, you know what I still needed as I dated Catherine? I still needed Jesus Christ. Like, it didn't matter how much Catherine could give to me, I still needed Jesus Christ. Because here's what I realized about Catherine. She was an amazing girlfriend, but she was a really lousy God. Because I wasn't made first and foremost for a relationship with Catherine. I was made first and foremost for a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I just tell you that to say that some of you here are making romantic love the point of your life instead of a part of your life. But as long as romantic love is the point of your life instead of just a part of your life, you're going to miss your life. Because you have been made to know Jesus and make him known. Relational love, romantic love isn't meant to replace that. It's simply meant to enhance that. It exists for you to know Jesus and make him known in a new way. And so I'll just end by making sure that you know the gospel. You know, tonight we've talked about finding someone that you're compatible with. You need to know that you are 100% incompatible with Jesus Christ. It makes zero sense for perfection to dwell with perfection. It makes no sense for the God of the universe to give a rip about us. And yet, as we've talked about pursuing romantic love, you need to know you've already been pursued by a perfect love. That God the Father sent his Son, Jesus Christ, stepped out of heaven and into earth, and he came to die the death that you and I deserve to die. He came to be punished in our place. He rose from the dead so that we too could be raised to a new life and a new relationship with God. I'm not talking about finding romantic love tonight. I'm talking about finding perfect love. If you've never come to the point where you realize that you are loved by a perfect God and he has come to rescue you back into a relationship with him, then I hope you will know that tonight.